welcome. So welcome, 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 everybody. We have everybody hopping on. We're going to give it about another 60 seconds or so for people to hop on here. And then we'll get rocking and rolling on the Coach Uplift Weekly. We're glad you are here. And we have two great guests today. So just give us about, I feel like we should have music on when we're doing this. I need to remember that and have some like uplifting music going when we do these. So we will give it about another, I don't know, about another 30 seconds and we will get going. And officially, people are hopping on here. We know that a lot of people will be watching this recording as well, but we have some exciting updates to share with everybody from Soar.com. So with that said, we are going to go ahead and get rocking and rolling. So welcome to Coach Uplift Weekly. This is where we provide tools and tips and support for coaches and consultants and trainers so that you all can expand your reach and your impact. And that's what we are dedicated to doing, is help all of you reach more, have a higher positive impact for those that you serve. My name is Shari Strong, and I'm the Vice President of Community at Soar.com. Now, this week's topic is 3 different techniques for helping coaches set goals, or helping clients set goals for 2021. We know that there's lots of different techniques out there to set goals, but my question always is why do they not achieve them? And so that could be a whole show in itself, but we have decided to focus on the first part, setting them. And there's lots of different ways to do that. So we invited 2 guests today. My first guest is Dr. Jeff Williamson. He is the founder of CoachMentorGuide.com. He's the executive director of corporate engagement for the Olivet Nazarene University. Did I say that right, Jeff?
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
Okay. He has over 25 years experience and has helped hundreds of organizations in this realm. So welcome, Jeff.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I love all things strengths, etc. And my apologies that you're getting a photo of me. We were having some glitches there. So it may be a good thing that it's just a picture. But I'm excited too to have Kathleen along with you, Shari.
Awesome. We couldn't be more excited to have you here today and getting us started for 2021, which does bring us to Kathy Murphy, our other guest. She's the founder of MarketMeToo.net. She has 25 years of executive marketing experience and is also a Clifton Strengths certified coach. So we have 2 strengths coaches here. But she was also the top mentor with the United States Women Unlimited Executive Mentor Program, which means she knows what she is talking about. She knows how to help you all do better and do more for your clients. So welcome, Kathy. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Shari. It's a pleasure to be here. I am really looking forward to this discussion. I love the topic. It's going to be a lot of fun to unpack this.
Yes, absolutely. So welcome to all of you who have taken your time to be here today. This is a weekly webinar. We'll keep it under 40 minutes. Our goal, like I said, is to help all of you expand your skill sets and your knowledge and what you do for your clients. So with that, jumping in, goal setting does seem like a very complex process, and it can be. But the question always is why do some people attain their goals and why do some not? Why do some of your clients have a better grasp on what it is that they want and have a clearer route to that? And why do some of your clients not achieve them? And we know it's not always the coach, right? We are there to help guide them through that process. So, but there's a lot of reasons for it. We're going to start with the beginning, just setting up that process. So Jeff, if you don't mind, starting us off, I guess when it comes to helping your clients, you know, how do you approach the subject matter? What is the process that you take them through?
Well, out of the gate, it's important, you know, full disclosure, like you said, I'm a strengths coach. And so I am very much a fan of that. And once we start with that, I really like to help people by asking them some key questions, finding out where they're getting stuck, finding out those kinds of things. And good coaches do that. And a lot of times it identifies the areas that they can sometimes get overwhelmed, the areas where they maybe do get stuck or have problems along the way. And so once I have a better sense for that, then I can help them start to be thinking about small steps. And sometimes I'll have them begin with just micro goals, just small bite-sized kinds of things. I'm working with one client and right out of the gate, she was saying, you know, when I look at the big picture of 12 months and a year and details and planning, I can just tend to get overwhelmed. And so in that case, I said, well, let's start with some micro goals, you know. So we started just laying out something for this week and something for next week. And then as we continue to build along, we bring those with us and then bracket those into the bigger architecture of where she wants to be, you know, 6 months or a year from now. So that's a good place to start.
How do you help people identify what stuck means? Because I think stuck can be a broad thing for clients, and some of them are just frustrated, or they might be, you know, mad at us, or what the goal is they were given. How do you help them identify what stuck is to them?
Yeah, sure. It's to me, it's helping them identify what the obstacle is. So if it is a difficult supervisor, if it is, you know, challenges outside of work or things going on in their life, once we can identify what an obstacle is, what the obstacle is and how it's creating that roadblock or help keeping them from going forward, that's to me where people are getting stuck. They're saying, you know, if I only could get past this, then I think I could get this area of my life back where I want it to be. So for me, being stuck is identifying that obstacle that they see as being in their way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting because that was what I was going to bring up today too. And I'll talk about that a little bit more too. So do you tend to help people do annual goals, or do you use like a SMART system? What is your technique for goal setting, Jeff?
Sure. Yeah. I do like to set it up in kind of that build up where it's say, okay, well, over the next 2 weeks, in 1 month and 3 months and 6 months and so on. And it's like you read my notes here because I have SMART goals written out, and probably a lot of folks are familiar with that as far as the different acronyms for that. But it is key because a lot of times when we start with goals, we can tend to, and this is me too, we can tend to be too general, too broad to say, well, I want to be on a good path. Okay. Well, I do too. What's that going to look like? How will you know when you're making progress? What are some of the sign markers, you know, and one of those keys in the SMART model is the second one, which is measurable. So how are those goals measurable? How will we know a month from now that you did get up and go for that morning walk 5 days out of 7, like you discussed in our last call? Those are things that we can easily put a pin to and say, yep, check. You did that. And so that's a part of it for me too, is really helping them know how will I know when I've gotten there, besides just the feeling, which is important, but what are the steps you can take and boxes you can check.
I love it. So SMART goal system, you use that, and then you really identify areas of being stuck and then help them overcome those, what that could be. So thank you, Dr. Jeff. And anybody that's listening today, if you have a question for Dr. Jeff or Kathleen or myself, please put that in the chat, in the questions. We will answer those. I tend to get very focused when I'm listening, so I may not see it right away, but have patience. I will get to it. I really want to pay attention to our speakers today. So yes, in fact, we have somebody right now who says, I like Michael Hyatt. He has the smarter, smarter system. I've seen that. The E is for exciting, R is for risky. And then it's the SMART system with ER. Michael Hyatt is fabulous at at helping people through that. And yes. So yeah, anybody want to chat through this? Also, really quickly, we will be sending out this webinar, and we'll be talking about our Soar audio app that is available on Android and as of yesterday on Apple Store. And you'll be able to, I'll be sharing this on the app this afternoon. When you download it, it'll be underneath. I'll show you how to do it this afternoon or later at the end of this webinar. But we're excited to be able to share the technology with our very first webinar. So be hanging tough or hanging here, and we will make sure you get access to this in different realms. So with that, Kathleen, so how do you approach helping your clients set goals and achieving them?
So I was thinking about this, and I broke it down into 3 different areas. And the first one that I'll talk about is aligning the client's values with their goals. And so I like to start there before I even dive into talking to them about what their goals are, because I want to make sure that there is tight alignment. And so I'll share with you a link to a free source where you can have people that are listening and others in the future be able to download these same value cards that I use. You can obtain them digitally, and I swear by them. They're just so fantastic to use. And so what I do is I spend time with them going through their values, establishing what their top 5 values are. And once I do that, we then dive into warming up, and I ask them some questions in terms of what energizes them, just to kind of because going through selecting the top 5 values out of a possible 100 takes a little bit of time. I mean, it can take somebody from anywhere from, say, 20 minutes to, I've seen people deliberate over this for about an hour and 15 minutes. It can take them a while. So after they get done with that, just re-energize them, ask them that question. And then what I do is I like to ask them something about an activity or something they accomplished recently. It could be today, yesterday, also to kind of get them thinking about alignment for goals. And then I have them typically choose between 3 to 5 goals. I do have some clients that I work with that will choose 1 or 2, and I've had clients choose upwards of maybe 10 to 12. I think between 3 to 5 is great. And you can always add to the goals if you prefer, but I think 3 to 5 is a perfect kind of number to aim for. And then I instruct them to think about, as they're crafting their goals, to consider how they're in alignment with the values that they selected. The other thing that I like to help clients do is I will scribe for them as they are telling me what their goals are, so that they can see it visually in front of them. So I coach people right now exclusively on Zoom because of the pandemic, but in the past I'd scribe in front of them. But with Zoom, it's great because they can see what their goal is right in front of them as they're talking about it. And then we go back to reviewing the goals and to see how tightly they're aligned with the values that they've come up with. And people are always kind of shocked in a good way in terms of this process of developing goals based on aligning them with values, because it's not something that most people consider doing. But from my perspective, it's really important. Another area is, and I'll just touch quickly upon this.
You're fine. You're fine. We got plenty of time.
Great. Is stretch goals. I'm not a fan of stretch goals, and I have pretty good reasons for that. One of the reasons is because although we know in the strengths world that achiever is the #1 strength for the general population, not all my clients have achiever in their top 5 or maybe even their top 10. And so it can be frustrating for them to have goals. And because of that, I like to factor that into consideration, to just have straight goals, if you will, in terms of let's not stretch for this. Let's make these attainable. And so that you're not going to drive yourself crazy, if you will. And then I have them consider building into their goal plan a plan B. What if, for some reason, we're not able to get you to this goal? Let's think of a mitigation risk plan so that you can have a better chance of achieving the goals if we don't get to all of them 100%. Now, we're going to try to aim for that 100% every single time, but there's always risks in any situation. So I always like to give people some opportunities to come up with maybe a what if plan. And then I also like to get them excited about committing to making their goals happen. Because if you're not excited about the goals, if you just feel like these are somebody else's goals because somebody said, you know, you should really do X, Y, Z, and they're not yours, the chances of you making that happen and having them come to life and to fruition is going to be less than probably 100%. And that's not what you want. If you're setting up goals, I think most people want to achieve them. And then the last thing that I like to do is I like to also appeal to those people that are more visual learners or visual people. Like, I'm a very visual person myself. So actually I have a little, I'll show it here. I have a little storyboard here that I had put together, which was basically what I used for my inspiration. People call it inspiration boards. I call it a visual board. It can be any number of different things. You can do this both physically, or you can do it online. Like, you can pull images and put it into a spreadsheet, or on a PowerPoint rather is what makes more sense. And I think by having something like that to go back to look at, and as a daily reminder, it can be incredibly inspirational. And so I also like to ask people, have they shared their vision board or any of their goals in general with people? And that applies to each of the 3 different sort of areas that I've talked about. And I think when you share your goals with somebody, it also tends to make you more accountable, because when you tell somebody else about something that you're going to do, it kind of commits you a little deeper. And that's a good thing when it comes to goals, because then that person can be part of the experience of maybe even being maybe a partner to help you achieve that goal in some way, even if they're just cheering you on. So I think that's really important. And the last thing that I'll say is to consider having milestones. Jeff had talked about with the SMART goals, right? They typically build in milestones for achievement, but make them, you know, relatively small also, so that you can feel as if you can accomplish at least something every single day, so that your goals aren't so far out that you feel, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get there. I'm not a runner, but if I were a long distance runner, I'd probably have to have like some kind of a little mini carrot very frequently along the path to get me to the end goal of finishing that run, if you will. So that's just how I am. So consider how you are as a person to know what's going to allow you to be able to get through to hitting those goals.
I love it. I love it. So if anybody, so we're getting comments here, love the idea of the vision board. Sometimes if they're out of sight, they're out of mind. Absolutely. So yeah, any other questions or comments? First of all, if you guys could all give Jeff and Kathleen a big welcome for taking time to share their genius with all of you, that would be awesome. We'll make sure they get a copy of this chat. You know, listening to both of you, SMART goals, being specific, that's what I'm hearing, helping them see it. So one of the things I thought about when I was thinking about adding to this conversation, knowing you guys have these processes down, one thing that I've helped clients do in the past, and it works really well, is to that area of being stuck, I actually have them, and I love your idea, Kathleen, of when you're on Zoom right now, we have this awesome opportunity, and those of you who are using the Soar Zoom platform, you're gonna have that integrated into the audio app, and it's all right there for you, and it'll be translated, but having that in front of people and watching the coach type out what you are saying, I could see that right now thinking, man, that would be powerful. I can't wait to do that and try that with somebody. Second of all, one of the things that works is to the point of being stuck in obstacles is I actually have the client tell me what are the possible obstacles. So I want them, because what happens many a times, and if you are even a team leader and you're somebody who gives feedback to your teams and you're responsible, sales team, whatever it is, whoever's watching this, whoever you're helping set goals, to Kathleen's point of it, sometimes we're given goals and we have to hit them. We're responsible for them. So yes, you got to get them excited. What are the risks? Well, taking that a step further is helping them think through the challenges. So what are 3 obstacles that could happen this year? Oh, a pandemic. Now, nobody thinks of a pandemic. Now we know how to overcome the pandemic and make a shift to online, right? So think about those obstacles. Well, my spouse may not buy into my idea of going full-time into coaching. Okay, let's talk about that. What would that conversation look like? How would you approach the subject? What kind of financial means do you need to make it happen? My boss makes me stop the day and call in every day at noon, and it just gets me off kilter. Okay, so let's talk about that. It's an obstacle. If that stops you from finishing your day, let's talk about how you can approach that differently or talk to your boss about that. So I think it's really important. So many people do not think through the obstacles or the challenges that could happen. And then when they happen, it stops them. And then rather than keep going, it literally stops them in their track, and they'll lower their goal. They come up with an excuse. And that's when we start hearing, it's my boss's fault. It's the economy, and nobody's listening. And nobody's taking my calls because they're not in the office, or the excuses start to pop up. So I think helping clients identify obstacles and a plan to overcome them so that they can see it in their mind's eye. And now it's not about having confidence. I heard somebody say the other day, it's about having courage. It's about having courage to attack those obstacles so that they gain the confidence to go out and achieve their goals. So that's, one of the things that I help clients with and was taught early on in coaching on how to help people overcome and attain their goals. So let's see here. We have somebody saying, based on previous career, I work with many clients to have a primary, alternate, contingency, emergency plan. There you go, Kathleen, to your point, to get their most important goal accomplished, right? And some people, having that many plans, it would be overwhelming. So I think it's really important as coaches that we really don't push our approach to life. Now that's why this was important today. I wanted to be able to share with coaches different techniques, because we can get complacent too. And it's easy to get into a rhythm that we think works for everybody. And our goal as a coach is to meet people where they are at, and they're not all wired the same. Now, those of you who are strengths coaches, you have strengths to follow on. Those of you who have DISC or Myers-Briggs or Hogan, you know that everybody's wired differently. So it's really important as coaches that we have different approaches to helping our clients. Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead and type them in there, or if you have, techniques that you utilize as well. So Jeff, Kathleen, any further comments on just help, now that we've had this little bit of a discussion, how to help keep clients moving? How do you hold them accountable moving towards their goals?
Well, I would just really affirm what Kathleen was saying a second ago with identifying some intermediate goals and those signposts, I think you said, along the way, where you say, okay, well, this isn't the whole journey, but at 3 months, here's going to be one of the measures. Here's going to be one of the ways that will determine that you're making progress. And so I think those intermediate goals and celebrating those along the way is important. I'm a pretty goal-oriented guy, so I can, as you said, default to my own bias, where it's like, well, I'm not going to celebrate until the victory's won and the last thing is accomplished, and I'm like, well, I really should stop and say, we're not there yet, but we're getting it done. We're making good progress. And sometimes as a coach, I'm doing that same thing for someone to say, okay, 30 days is a reasonable window to move from where we are to the next step in this process. So those intermediate goals are really important. I thought that was a great point you made, Kathleen.
Awesome, Kathleen. We do have a question. Is how do your clients see what you were scribing on Zoom? Good question.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do they see it when I'm scribing on Zoom? There's a option in Zoom that allows you to basically share your screen with them. So I am generally using PowerPoint as one of my tools that I work with clients. So I'll be typing into PowerPoint. So I'm sharing my screen with them. I use just that share screen option so that they can see what I'm looking at. And they really like that. But there, you could use any number of different things. It could be a Word document. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be anything. It could be in Canva. It could be anything. I mean, whatever you are using to be able to visually show and share with somebody, whatever you have on your desktop, you can share that generally with somebody. So whatever you're comfortable with.
That is
Yeah,
fabulous.
that's the same thing.
Yeah, that is fabulous, being able to share your screen, where it's a lot more difficult if you're in person. We've been talking about that. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, about the difference between in-person coaching and Zoom coaching. And Zoom coaching is actually much better in so many ways. And that is one of them. I never even thought about sharing my screen. I usually will send a follow-up with what the steps are, and I make it very short and succinct, send a follow-up, here's what it is, here's what your homework is. And I'm doing that as we're doing the session. So then all I have to do is copy and paste from my notes and put it in a follow-up email. So that is another way to do that and hold people accountable. So yes, thank you for your insight. I agree, intermediate goals, breaking them down, absolutely. So some people, to your point, Kathleen, are not, well, and I think, Jeff, you said it too, if they don't have achiever, those of you who understand strengths, but if they're not driven by goals, they're driven by they're more of a feeling type person and not necessarily a task-oriented person. You have to really dig deep. And one of the ways that I have found to help people dig into that feeling side of them, those who are not as task-oriented, is have them visualize their goal. Like, a year from now, what do you want to have happen? And I've had executives do this, and I have them write it down in a letter as if it was already done. So, Shari, you did awesome this year. You achieved, I felt so good about the webinars that we did. We ended up doing 52 of them and acting as if they were already in that moment. It creates a task list, but it actually creates a feeling attached to the task. And now they're feeling it as they're writing it out, as if they were already done. And it's really fun in person. If you have a team, that it's really fun. And I will tell you, I've had some people are probably rolling their eyes going, my executives would never do that. I've gotten executives to sing in fake microphones before. It's in there. Now you have to meet your client where they are. And then again, this is just one technique, but having them write it out as if it's already happened. Give them a minute to do it. And then I have them come back to the Zoom meeting and say, okay, I'll give you 10 minutes, I'll come back. I'll say, now talk to me as if it's a year from now, and you tell me everything you accomplished this year. And they're like, well, Shari, I'm really excited because, I hit my sales goal. Oh, I wrote my book. And then I'm like, okay, now we have your goals. Let's just create a plan from that. But it starts with the feeling first, then the task. So just another technique for getting people to put writing their goals down, depending on their personality.
Yeah, that's big. I love that. A couple quick thoughts related to that. As I was prepping for this call, one of the things I had mentioned yet, is that sometimes they tell me where they want to be in a year, and then we really reverse engineer that and say, okay, so what needs to happen? It's kind of like for a runner, there's the 16-week plan from couch to marathon. Well, that's the end goal. Then you reverse engineer it and say, okay, what do I need to do for the preceding 15 weeks to be ready to go when I get there? So that's one thing on the reverse engineering from your longer term goals. And the other thing, have used the letter writing, and that's so powerful. The doctoral courses that I taught with a cohort about 3 years ago, we had them do the same thing. They write a letter to themselves for graduation day and literally keep those. And it's the same thing. And so they all written out letter, and graduation's in May. So they will get those back, and you can be guaranteed there'll be some tears of joy. But that's a great tool to help visualize and see where you're going and feel it even before it all plays into action.
Shari,
I love
one of
it.
the things I wanted to say is, I think we may be assuming in this conversation that we're potentially talking to business people. Let's assume in this case, we're not talking to business people, and we're talking to individuals who are working on goals that they want to achieve. And so an idea I want to throw out there for coaches is to consider asking people what they think that you might be able to achieve, to write maybe 1 or 2 things down and to share it with you, so as to possibly give you some fodder and some, thoughts in terms of how other people perceive your ability to do things and achieve things that you might not consider either you're ready for, or you're scared to do, or you had never, potentially imagined what somebody else thinks that you can do. So I like to sometimes ask my clients to do that, is to go out and ask people what they think that they could achieve this next year. Because chances are they're generally surprised as to what they hear.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So, well, thank you both. And if anybody would, make sure you write down questions you have. I know it's at the 30-minute mark, and we'd be happy to answer any other questions, or if you have ideas or wondering about how to help clients through it. Again, there's so many different techniques. And with that said, I just wanted to take a moment, is many of you are either on Soar, they're using the Zoom platform through Soar as a premium member, or you're thinking about it, or if you need something, then you definitely look at it. I wanted to also let you know, as of yesterday, well, we now have Soar Audio, and it is an app that allows, for instance, this meeting that I'm doing through my Soar profile webinar link and my meetings link. And what it'll do is it's going to go right into my library on my profile, and it's going to be uploaded into my Soar Audio app. So if you have Android or your iPhone, iOS, you can go to the Apple Store, download the app for Soar Audio today. It's for free. There's a playlist on there already. And this afternoon, I will be sharing this video with the public, and on the app, I had this pulled up. Let me pull it up again. On the app, it'll say shared content. You'll be able to click that and listen to this video, this recording this afternoon on your phone, and you can click a button, and you'll be able to eventually have it go to your Alexa app and or your Google Assist. So it's being developed. So if you want to know more about that, I was going to share my screen right now, show everybody how to click it. So you click at the bottom, share screen. And I'm just going to pull right over here. It's called soaraudio.com. And you can upload your content and share it with the public for free. You can create playlists, and it's limited. And if you would like to know more about how you can have Teams channels and have private channels for your clients, for your coaching clients. So if you're doing Zoom sessions, you can actually have them download the app, share it privately with them, and now they can listen to this wherever they go without having to get on their laptop or log into Zoom. It's right in the Soar Audio app for you. So it's cutting edge technology. We are very, very excited about it. Everybody needs to download the Soar Audio app, and there's playlists in there already of great content. So if you have any questions about that, go to soaraudio.com. Here's a question that came up. What are some of the best, most powerful, provocative questions to help clients move ahead when they are stuck or unsure? Oh, I love that question. Jeff or Kathleen, do you want to attack that one?
Well, that's a dandy.
I'll jump in first.
Oh, bless you.
So I hear this all the time. And one of my favorite questions is to ask somebody really to consider, what's the worst thing that can happen? What are they really afraid of? Be honest with yourself in terms of when you're thinking about why, you might not be able to accomplish something. I like the acronym for fear. It means fear of, false expectations appering real. And I remind people of that. Like, a lot of times we've got these two little people, cheerleaders on our shoulders. Sometimes the bad one is out cheering the good one. Get rid of them, the bad one, and replace it with a good cheerleader to help you. So that would be my tip. That would be my question.
I love that question.
Be really straightforward. Just don't beat around the bush.
Love that question. Jeff, did you have one?
Yeah, I was thinking one of the people that I'm working with now, early on, there was this hesitation to step into difficult conversations. And that was a real sticking point as a CEO, to be hesitant there. So in that way, we really suggested, to identify those things that make you uncomfortable and then courageously step into them anyway. And then we would process them the next week and say, okay, you had that conversation with fill in the blank. How'd it go? Well, actually, it was better than I anticipated. And then we talk about, how was the discomfort? How did you, but when you stepped into it with courage, even though your heart was pounding, and graciously said this difficult thing or asked the difficult question, most of the time folks find that they turn out better than they anticipated. Now, obviously, sometimes there can be train wrecks. We get that. But most of the time, our imagination, or our anticipation, I should say, of a tough conversation may go well, may be better than we feared if we step into that courageously.
Love that. So here's the thing. So thank you, Carolyn, for that question. Yeah, what I love to challenge people on is what is true and what we believe to be true. Just because we believe something to be true doesn't mean it is, which really addresses limiting beliefs. But so many people, the words limiting beliefs can be overused, or the concept. So I like to challenge people when they say, well, I'm too heavy. Is that true? Are you too heavy? If they're trying to lose weight. Well, I'm too heavy to do this. How true is that? Are you thinking that you can't take 2 steps forward, or you can't ride a bike, or you can't do something? So I love to challenge people and make them think, just because we think something is true doesn't mean it is. And we often our brain will find what we want to believe. It will look for things to validate what we want to believe. So it's very important that we challenge those belief systems and what we believe to be true. So awesome. So when signing in a Soar audio app, you Soar sign in, do not need to create another one. Correct. You should not need to create another one if you are with the Soar app. And I need to make sure and clarify that and find out for you. But I think you use your same, if you're with Soar platform, you want to use your same sign in. And I want to make sure I'm correct on that, hopefully, and I can double check that. So we'll send a note out to all the people who are registered for this webinar so that we can answer that question and make sure that's correct.
Shari, I saw someone in the notes had a really nice comment. I think his name is Dennis, and he asked, what would your fearless self do? And I love that, because that's another question that you can simply ask somebody in terms of, if you weren't afraid, if you didn't have any obstacles, and if all the answers could be yes, what would that look like? What would you do? What would happen then?
I love it. Well, thank you all, and I hope everybody has enjoyed this. We want to make sure that we end on time. We don't want to go over this 40-minute mark. I mean, we could talk about goals for the next year, but I'm going to challenge everybody who is listening to this or listen to the recording and watch this, or listen to it on your Soar audio app. That's what, go tell all your friends to download this, because there's good content and it's going to explode. And you can put your content on there and have people listen to your podcasts, your vlogs that aren't listening to them right now. It's going to be a whole new audience for you. So if you want to know more about that, just email me at connect, CONNECT, at Soar, SOAR.com, and we'll get back to you and get you some information. But I just really want to thank Kathleen and Dr. Jeff for being here today, offering their wisdom and their techniques. I truly believe that there's enough for all of us. And if we help each other rise, we will rise too. So if all of you that are still on, just say thank you to Kathleen and Jeff. And we will be back next week. We'll be doing these weekly. We'll have different topics every week. We hope that you continue to join us. And we are here to help you all soar. So with that, thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
My honor.
Bye, everybody. See you next. Oh, Happy New Year, and see you next Thursday.